I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it, discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it, uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know, there'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic today.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Senior Nation. I'm your host, Phyllis, Ayman, and you are listening to the Source TV Radio Network, WTSN, Washington, D.C. We are indeed a senior nation with 100 plus million adults over the age of 50. And we are here to bring you up-to-date information about successful aging, healthful longevity, and becoming what I call a well-ager, to dignity, respect, quality of life, and quality of care for our parents, our grandparents, and loved ones. We at Senior Nation will be your trusted voice for informed choices, meaningful conversations, and a vibrant life at every age. Though the Source TV Radio Network, it's known for its dedication to bringing the highest level of jazz content to the viewing and listening audience, the owners of the network are also dedicated to bringing this important content to this fast-growing demographic, and I'm always grateful for the opportunity. And now I'd like to introduce tonight's guest. Eric Levitan is the founder and CEO of Vivo. Eric brings to Vivo more than 25 years of executive leadership in technology and innovation. As Eric witnessed the decline in his parents' quality of life in their older years, he realized he wanted to help them, and in doing so, better understand the aging process. That was the inspiration behind Vivo, an impactful program that creates awareness and guides older adults to a safer and healthier life. So here we are with Eric Levitan.
Thank you so much, Phyllis. I appreciate it.
I'm so thrilled to have you here. And so we talked a little bit about this right before, the show started, which is, I myself, we've talked before, but I think when we spoke before, I didn't really get into, how your parents' journey as they entered and progressed in their older years, how that really inspired you. So I think the listeners and viewers would be interested in hearing that story.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity to share it because it was a really meaningful experience to become a caregiver and to have a really, firsthand experience with watching what happens as we age, and especially what happens if we age passively. And this journey actually started probably back in about 2008. I was a part of, I witnessed the equivalent of a TED Talk, and it was about healthy aging. And I was introduced to a concept and a word that I'd never heard before. And that word is sarcopenia. And even today, I will share this word with conversations that I'm having like this. And most people have never heard that word. Correct. And that was really a part of the problem. So for those of you who may not have heard of sarcopenia before, sarcopenia is the progressive loss of muscle mass as we age that leads to a loss of function and ultimately a loss of independence. And it is literally something that every person on the planet experiences. It's a natural part of the aging process. And what I learned in this TED Talk was there's actually something we can do about it, that we can be intentional about challenging our muscles on a regular basis, also known as strength training or resistance training, and really slow that progression of decline. We're never going to be able to stop it, but we can slow it and we can really maintain our strength and our function and our independence as we get older. Well, fast forward 10 years after that, in 2008 up to 2018, both of my parents are in their mid to late 70s, and they start to experience what I now know is a fairly typical but precipitous decline in their mobility and their balance and their quality of life. My mom in particular had a series of falls, and they live in different states. My mom lives in Florida. My dad lives in Pennsylvania. I live in Atlanta, Georgia. And to try and navigate helping them with these challenges they were having was hard. And one of the things that I learned as my mom was having these falls is she saw her doctor who told her she really needed to walk more. And that was the answer. And she was having these falls while she was walking. She was walking every day. And I literally had this flashback to this presentation on sarcopenia. And I realized my mom didn't need to walk more. My mom needed to strength train. She was losing muscle mass.
Right.
And the fact that this trusted resource of her physician was not also giving her this advice, it really gave me this understanding of there's something that's missing. And so as I tried to navigate, fitness clubs and places that my mom, as someone in her mid to late 70s, could go, there weren't a lot of great options. And so eventually I kind of took it upon myself to say, you know what, I think I want to be a part of the solution and not just tell my mom to go do something. I wanted to actually create something that would be a really good pathway for my mom and my dad. And
so can I just, I'm not to interrupt you, but I just want to interject something that I think is important based on what you just said. And that is, I don't know if she just went to her internist or general practitioner. I don't know the doctor that she went to, but, unless doctors really educate themselves about the aging process or about caring for people in older years, a lot of them don't really know. That's why that's where the field of becoming a geriatrician came from, because they really specialize not only in the aging process and working with older people, but also the interaction of medications, because there are people that, have a variety of conditions and they're taking medications. And so, I don't know about the person your mother went to see, but that's unfortunate. There are a lot of doctors that can't even advise their patients properly, or they'll say, oh, well, that's just part of the aging process, when that's not necessarily the case. And that's what I think why I became so interested in what you're doing, because we associate a lot of conditions as being part of the aging process, and they don't necessarily have to be. It's our lifestyle choices, our eating choices, our, a variety of things that can really change that as we progress. I didn't mean to interrupt, but I just wanted
not at all
2 cents in about that, because I see that myself. I went to the doctor, and you know what they said? Well, I'm just saying,
And even, by the way, so you're 100% right. And there is a general lack of geriatricians across this country. There's not enough of them. And what we're broadly delivering with this program to help people build strength is referred to as a lifestyle intervention. And a lot of physicians are not really well educated or trained. There's a very minimal amount of time where they're spent around things like nutrition and exercise. And even when there are doctors that have a really strong understanding, they don't necessarily always have the resources and referral networks to tell people what to do. So even when someone did eventually, myself or others, tell someone, my mom, to strength train, there's no natural place for her to go, right, and know how to solve this problem. And that's part of the challenge. We belong to an organization called the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, or ACLM for short. It's comprised of physicians who are really passionate about bringing these lifestyle choices, these lifestyle interventions into their practice, because we now know, after decades and decades of research, exercise and nutrition and sleep, those three in particular are these. That is the trifecta, right?
It is the trifecta, right?
And of course, there's other things. There's social connection. There's stress, right, and meditation. But really, sleep and exercise and nutrition are these three main pillars that drive so much of how we experience life. And you can make good choices and make not so good choices around those three things, but we don't always know how to make those choices. And so, really, when I had this opportunity to help my own parents and really focus on one of those three, and specifically building strength, that really became kind of my passion and my mission is we want to help change the narrative around how we think about aging by helping people build strength, because it is this wonderful thing that impacts so many parts of your life.
Yeah, absolutely. A few weeks ago, I had actually two programs about my friend had started working with a chiropractor, and they developed this very special pillow. The name of the company is Imbibe. And I had said on that program, so obviously they're passionate about sleep and people not only sleeping properly, having a good night's sleep, but also from the body mechanics point of view, sleeping properly, which is partly what this pillow does. But I said on that program, when you're saying about sleep, that when I say to people, because I'm passionate about wellness and, when does your day begin? And people will say, oh, 6 or 8 or 5. I said, no, actually, it begins the night before. It begins with your sleep. I say start with sleep, because that's really, because if you wake up and you're tired, we all know that you're grouchy, you're maybe short-tempered, you're groggy, you're not thinking clearly. So really,
you'll crave sugar, right?
Right.
You'll start. Yes.
Your day really begins with sleep. So it is one of the most important pillars, on that stool, really.
That's right. And I will reemphasize, one of the things that strength training actually does is it improves sleep. And most
Right.
people don't associate it with that. And that's part of what we're trying to do with education and awareness around those benefits of building strength. But it improves sleep quality and enhances sleep duration. And so some of these, all three of these interventions around sleep and nutrition and exercise, they're all very much intimately tied together. And it's hard to talk about one and not talking about the others.
Yeah, absolutely. So, okay. So now you had this awareness, and by the way, did you tell your parents about sarcopenia? Obviously, I know about sarcopenia, but
Yes, I did. And it's one of those things that you hear, but it doesn't necessarily align with so what, right? Like, what do I do about that? And
right.
that's where this gets a little complicated, is you can tell someone they're losing muscle mass, but unless you really help them take those next steps, they kind of fall on deaf ears.
Yeah, I think I get that. I've noticed certainly a change. I mean, I used to go to the gym and lift weights. I love lifting weights and strength training and all of that. And my side was bothering me. I kind of couldn't walk very well for a while. Then I had a hip replacement December 3rd. And so I haven't gotten back to the gym yet. And I have noticed a dramatic change. It struck me, especially ahead of us doing this program. I was like, oh my God, you have no muscle in your legs anymore. How are you going to get back to this? Oh my goodness. And will you ever build that muscle again? It's harder. I'm not saying you can't, but it's just the change in just a few months is so dramatic. It was shocking to me.
It is shocking, and I'll throw a couple of kind of statistics out. We actually start this process of losing muscle mass actually starts in our 30s,
30s.
which most people don't realize.
Right.
It happens pretty slowly, somewhere between 3 to 8% of our muscle mass we lose per decade in our 30s into our 40s, but then it really starts to accelerate, and into your 50s, and then specifically your 60s, that rate starts to double. And that's where a lot of us start to recognize for the first times in our lives, if we're not paying attention, that we really start it impedes our function. It impedes our ability to do the things that we love, our activities of daily living, in our 60s. And then it really starts to accelerate after that into our 70s, 80s, and beyond. And there are certain things that even promote a more significant rapid loss of muscle mass, and certainly sedentary behavior. Chronic conditions are, by the way, one of them. Dealing with things like cancer, HIV, you experience something called secondary sarcopenia, which is this even further enhanced reduction in loss of muscle mass. And then when you have surgery, some sort of elective surgery, knee replacement, hip replacement, shoulder surgery, that is another real driver of not being able to put body weight right on that part. It accelerates this level of frailty. And it's really intimidating, right? And it begins a downward spiral. And for a lot of people, falls are one of the most devastating things. The fall itself is certainly devastating, but for a lot of people, it's what happens after the fall, because they're recovering from that injury. They also lose a lot of confidence, and it increases a fear
Right.
of falling. And people stop moving. They shrink their life space. They move their bedroom to the main floor of the house instead of doing those stairs. And it actually starts to work against you, right? Because that is now further accelerating this loss of muscle mass and strength.
Interesting.
And so it's hard. It's really hard to do this. But a really good rule of thumb is you want to be really challenging yourself physically, both from an aerobic conditioning perspective and from a strength perspective. And you really want to try specifically strength. This is what we do the most, twice a week. You can engage twice a week and really make sure you're trying to challenge your muscles. And what you will see is what you're experiencing now, you can recover a lot of those losses, but it won't happen by itself. You have to be intentional.
Right.
And 2 sessions a week, not a lot, right? Maybe 30 minutes or 45 minutes twice a week. Being intentional about this, you can see dramatic improvements in a very short period of time. 6 to 8 weeks, you'll begin to see really noticeable improvements in your strength.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm ready. I'm in. So tell me about the process, about how you developed this program, and then I'm interested to hear how your parents responded to it, because we talked about that. So
we did. So I am very fortunate that I had a prior career where I helped start a business, and that gave me the confidence that I could do it again. Because starting a business, for those of you who may be listening and are entrepreneurs, it's no joke, right? It takes over your life. You literally do that. You think about it, you're doing it, you're pretty much constantly working. And I had a little bit of that experience that gave me the confidence that I could do something. And at the time, I had a relationship with my alma mater, which is Duke University. And because of that, I got connected with some very smart people at Duke who were also doing research on muscle health, muscle quality, the impact of exercise on older adults, specifically through strength training. And so I got to be an observer for programs that they were building, and specifically they were focused on veterans. And what I witnessed was this program where they brought vets into a brick and mortar big gym and gave people a personalized little sheet that had their exercises for the day. And then they went about and kind of did them on their own. But the most important part of this was nobody was there to exercise. They were there to socialize. They were there to connect. It just so happened while they were there, they also exercised. And that was a really important takeaway to me, to say, I think generally most people don't like exercise, right? Like, we all know we should do this. It's kind of like eating your spinach, right?
right.
You're supposed to eat your spinach, but a lot of people don't like spinach. Exercise, I think the more you get into it, the more you learn to love it. But for a lot of people, it's very intimidating. But if you can wrap that spinach around something that tastes a little better, and you can wrap that exercise around social engagement and the sense of community, now maybe you give people a reason to do this. So as I was watching what was happening, that really stuck with me. And the sense of community as being the anchor behind getting people to exercise really became the heart of what I care the most about. And the more I researched how to build community, the more I found out about this concept of a small group.
Mm-hmm.
A small group is a wonderful agent for change. Right? It allows you to have a voice. In a big group, you can be anonymous. When you're doing something, watching a video, there is no community at all. But a small group held this power to connect you more meaningfully with other human beings. And so we ultimately, I guess at first I built an in-person program that was really designed for senior living, was kind of the first foray of Vivo. And it was going to be a small group in a senior living community. We did a pilot in the summer of 2019. It went very well. We were scheduled to launch at 2 facilities in March of 2020.
Oh, no.
As you can imagine, that did not happen.
Right.
And something else happened that really shut down all of the senior living communities
Right.
around that time. And COVID changed, really forced our hand to change how we thought about this. So much of the world, right, went online as COVID was shutting things down all over the world. And we really looked at this program that I had built with the help of some very smart folks at Duke and other connections that I had made. And what if we took this online and we took the same concept, this small group, but we did it as a live class online over Zoom? We took a platform that people were comfortable with. Everyone was learning Zoom. And we had a live trainer who could deliver this program and give people real-time feedback. We could correct form. We could keep them safe. We could help them modify an exercise if they had pain or discomfort or limited mobility. And so that's what we did. And then we also really, I didn't want to forget the part about building community. So leaning into this small group, we brought in these brain games. It's actually a concept called dual task exercises, where you challenge the brain and the body at the same time.
Right.
And we may have everyone doing a warm up of chair stands or squats, and the trainer would call on someone and say, Phyllis, while you're doing your chair stands, I want you to name for me as many words you can think of that begin with the letter B. Go.
Right.
And it's really hard to come up with words that begin with the letter B while you're moving.
Right.
And what naturally started happening was people would laugh, people would struggle, other people in the group would chime in because it's a small group. And before you know it, people were connecting with each other. And so we started expanding these. Instead of asking them to name words that begin with the letter B, we would ask them more personal questions. Tell us about the first car you ever owned, or tell us about the worst job you ever had. And when people talk in small groups, it's a natural extension to get to conversation.
Absolutely.
And so before you know it, we had these groups of older adults that were looking forward to these Vivo classes. And the more classes we ran, the more we saw the same thing over and over again. And it became this wonderful inspiration, like, oh, we're onto something. We need to be doing more of this.
So now, because we talked about this a little beforehand, so now that your parents were the inspiration for this, and you saw them declining, and you built this great program, what was their response to it?
So I brought this to my dad first. My dad was 79 at the time, and said, Dad, you were the inspiration for, I created this company, this program specifically designed to help, you get stronger. I'd love for you to be an early customer, give us feedback, let us know how this is working. Do you like it? Do you not like it? And his response was something along the lines of, Eric, I'm so proud of you doing this. It's amazing. It's not for me.
Right. Thanks, but no thanks. Don't call me and I won't call you. Right.
Exactly. And my response was, it's actually literally exactly for you. I built this for you. What do you mean it's not for you? And he proceeded to say things like, I don't have time. I'll get hurt. I don't need to strength train. And the more he presented these objections, and then I would debate them with him, like, Dad, you have time. You have 45 minutes twice a week to do this.
Right.
The more he just moved on to a different objection.
Right.
And eventually I got so flustered with the conversation, without even thinking, I said, Dad, what if I just do this with you? And without hesitation, he said yes.
Wow.
And that was a really, really important learning, because I was the motivation for him to start. For those of you with kids, especially as we get older, we just want to spend more time with our kids. And so for him, the motivation was, this is an opportunity for him to see his adult son more. And again, my dad lives in Pennsylvania. I live in Georgia. So it's not like we see each other all the time, but the opportunity to see his son twice a week, even though it's online, it's a small group, we're interacting, and it became something very, very quickly that became super meaningful to both of us. It was a shared experience that, he could see me, I could see him working hard. He could see me working hard. He would text me after every class, and we would laugh and joke about what happened during that class, or how hard it was and how tired we were, or how sweaty we were. And it became this incredible bond. And then I literally had the exact same experience with my mom. My mom's like, I'm not interested in this. Sorry. and went through the same level of objections and eventually the same statement of, Mom, let's do this together. And then she said yes. And for
So
both of my parents, yeah.
So you brought this up before about how you think there's shame and guilt involved are they capable of doing it in front of other people? Suppose they're not successful, especially because even if you point, a person points out to a person, look, you're getting weaker, you're falling. No, I'm not.
Right.
And I can tell you from personal experience with my hip that, I had been walking with not a natural gait for quite some time. And, working in this industry, I had people say, gee, Phyllis, why don't you go to a doctor? I mean, you're obviously not walking normally, and I'd say, I don't want anybody telling me I need a hip replacement. Now, why was that? First of all, I think intuitively I knew, even though I said, well, maybe I tore a muscle, maybe it's, a ligament. And I think, so this, I'm asking you I'm telling you this because I'm curious if you think this is part of it too. Because I work in this industry, right? And I've been in over 50 buildings and seen thousands of people, I'm sure, with hip replacements, but I never saw myself as one of them. So I'm wondering if you think that's part of it for your parents. Yes, doing it with you became a real motivation, but they didn't see themselves identifying as somebody who needs this because they need to strength train. They're getting strength train. They're getting older. They're falling. They're weaker. Just like I didn't see myself as somebody who needed a hip replacement. I work with people who need hip replacements. What am I doing in that group, kind of thing? So, do you think that played any part of it?
Absolutely, it did. And, we did help as we built out and continued to roll out this program really across the country. We see something that's pretty common, which is we talk internally, we call it the objections. And whenever we talk to someone about what we do and the importance of strength training, almost everybody has the same response, which is, that's really great, not for me. Like, I don't need that, right? Like, keep doing what you're doing, and that's a wonderful service you're providing, but I don't need that. And a big part of it is exactly what you just said, which is they don't see themselves as needing this just yet, right? This isn't for them. And that ultimately bubbles up into, there's two really core emotions that are associated with exercise and aging. And those two things are fear and shame. And a lot of this has really foundations in ageism, where our whole lives, we tend to think of older adults as frail. And if you do anything to exert yourself, you're going to get hurt or worse. And so we kind of naturally embed fear in our own psyches as we get older. And then at some point, we become embarrassed, right? We don't want to expose to someone else that we can't do something. And sometimes we don't even want to expose it to ourselves. We don't want to acknowledge that we can't do it.
Right. Absolutely.
And,
so
and it takes a lot to overcome those.
Lonnie has a good question. She said, what do you think of Tai Chi?
Oh, Tai Chi is wonderful. So Tai Chi is generally referred to as a program that has a really strong evidence base around specifically balance. And so part of, there are some physical activity guidelines that exist that a lot of people don't know, but the CDC established these quite decades ago. And they may sound familiar when I say them, but 150 minutes a week of moderate aerobic exercise, or 75 minutes a week of vigorous aerobic exercise, twice a week strength training activities, and 3 times a week balance activities. And Tai Chi checks a lot of those boxes. Tai Chi is a wonderful exercise that, again, a lot of people may not have access to a Tai Chi program. It's important to find a program where there's some oversight and people can help. Because if you just jump into something without really knowing what you're doing, then it actually could be dangerous. But Tai Chi is a wonderful example of a program to really help strengthen your balance.
Yeah. And he also said, and chair exercises. And I was going to ask about Qigong.
So there are like literally countless examples of different things that we can do from a chair, standing supported, for those people that can get to the floor and get off of the floor. There are really no bad ideas, but there are a couple of, I think, really fundamental things that people need to think about as they're doing any exercise programs, chair-based, Tai Chi, Qigong, etc. One is it's got to be a little bit challenging. And this is a hard concept for a lot of us because, again, I think we have we don't love exercise, and doing exercise that's hard is not the most comfortable thing in the world. But that's where the magic happens. It has to be a little bit challenging. If exercise is too easy, then we really won't see these wonderful benefits that it can provide. And obviously, if exercise is too hard, that's where you can hurt yourself. And a really good rule of thumb that we like to talk to people about is to find the right level of challenge. You want it to be a little bit challenging. If you're doing a set of an exercise, and an easy one to demonstrate, like an arm curl, maybe you've got a dumbbell or a resistance band, you could be seated, you could be standing, but you're doing this arm curl movement. If you can do somewhere between 8 to 12 repetitions, and those last few repetitions are hard, that's the sweet spot for challenge. Right. If you can do 50 or 100 and you're not breaking a sweat and you're smiling the whole time, it's too easy. If you can barely get 1 or 2, it's too hard. Right. Look for between 8 to 12 repetitions where the last few reps are challenging. That's the spot you want to get to.
So I'm thinking about myself here. So my question is, I mean, is there an element, I'm thinking of myself, but is there an element of just your attitude and your, just your mental attitude towards these things, or your natural inclination, your personality? Because, for instance, I love weightlifting. And I will go back to it. I stopped at a gym. I'm upstate New York for the next several weeks. And I stopped at a gym yesterday. I always look for a gym where I am. And I look to see if they had enough of what I do. And I'm anxious to get back to that. And I really push myself. And but that's a personal choice. But don't you think some of this has to do with that? For instance, like when you say about pushing yourself, I mean, not that long ago, I was able to leg press 300 pounds. I mean, I don't know if I'll get back to that, but what I'm saying is I'm always trying to increase the weight. To me, it's a challenge. That's partially personality or attitude, or I don't know. Maybe you have a better way of explaining it.
No, I think that's absolutely true. And it may rise to a larger level of, I would probably call, confidence. And knowing that there's a purpose behind this. So for a lot of people, I think that fear and that shame is so powerful that it prevents you from wanting to do this or wanting to push yourself, because you've been told maybe your whole life that you're going to get hurt if you exercise, right? And there were gender differences, 50 years ago around what men and women did for exercise.
Right.
And I think we now know everybody needs to strength train, right? It doesn't matter. And even, by the way, age-wise, like young, middle-age, older adult, we all need to be strength training. It's really, really wonderful, intervention. But a lot of us didn't grow up with those messages.
Right.
And so getting the confidence that you can challenge yourself and not get hurt, you can challenge yourself and it will be okay. And it's actually what you should embrace and learn to love. That is easier for some people than others. And maybe at some point in your life, Phyllis, you had that experience that gave you the confidence that now it feels okay. I can tell you from, exercising with my mom for the last 5 years, she struggles to find that spot. And it's a very common thing that when something starts to bother her, she stops. Right. And the trainer in the class will say, my mom's name is Margie. Margie, you're saying that hurts. Does it hurt like acute, like ow? Or does it hurt like the muscle is tired, it hurts?
Right.
And she has a hard time differentiating. And so there's a little bit of getting the confidence of knowing what the difference is of working hard versus, ow, something is really bothering me and doesn't feel good. And
I just thought of something. And maybe you can address this, because besides sarcopenia and muscle wasting, which is known as muscle wasting, right? There's
Yep.
also bone density, especially for women. And actually, resistance or strength training is very important to counteract the loss of bone density as you age, and there are hormonal changes in your body. And I
That's
think
right.
women know that, but they don't know, like you said, what does that mean? How do I go about it? Where do I start? I don't know. Like, I went to a very I'll call it a blue collar, very utilitarian gym. I wasn't going to some place where I was going to parade around. I mean, I'm not saying that those places are, there's something wrong with those places, but I was there to lift weights, to train. I wasn't there, really to socialize or for it to be that kind of place for me. It was an exercise destination. And I'm not
Right.
saying maybe I would have been better off if I did do that, but that's another conversation. But, a lot of people walk in and they're intimidated by these things. And what I would suggest, if let's say people, say, gee, I'm supposed to start to do some training to increase my bone density or to counteract the loss of it. All of these places have a trainer. They have somebody you can start off with. They have, even the little gym where I stopped, they said, we could orient you to the machines that we have. I mean, I knew what they were, but every place has somebody. So if you don't have that confidence and you go in and you say, listen, I have to start to strength train. I really don't know where to begin. They'll help you.
That's right. And that is, I personally believe that step, that getting help step, is the most important. And that is step number one, is reaching out to someone for help. And you also know, we talked about personalities, right? Some people don't like to ask for help.
Right.
And that's an important step to have to take. You also brought up osteoporosis, osteopenia, and osteoporosis, and this loss of bone density. It is a direct reflection of losing muscle mass. And that is one, by the way, Phyllis, of probably 75 different conditions that are diseases of aging that are impacted by loss of muscle mass: cardiovascular disease, hypertension, right, obesity, cancer survivorship, dementia. All of these things are muscle mass, and physical activity and exercise have a significant influence on. There was a study that came out just at the end of July called the US Pointer Study. And if you're not familiar with it, for the listeners who aren't familiar with it, search the internet for the US Pointer Study. It was one of the best, most complete studies up to date on cognitive decline. And it really showed that 4 lifestyle changes can not only slow the progression of cognitive decline, but actually in some cases increase cognition. And physical activity is at the top of that list. And
Right.
It's a combination of aerobic activity and strength. And
Right.
this is something that we have at our disposal. It's free. That if you're able to, do this on your own, or hiring a trainer, having someone help you, get started, there are a lot of really, really important things that we can do that put us in a much more favorable position as far as what our life looks like as we get older. But you're right, asking for help, going into your local gym, going to a YMCA, joining a class, even if you're comfortable with exercise and maybe you've gotten away from it, there's YouTube, there are apps out there. There are lots of, I would never suggest that what we do with Vivo is the one solution that everybody should do. I think the world needs options. And what we need to do is help people see what those options are and find the right option for what their personality is and what they enjoy doing. Because the one thing I will also say as a kind of closing comment for this topic is, you have to at some point make it fun, because if it's not fun, you're not going to do it.
Correct.
And so if you're doing something that doesn't feel right for you, for what you want, if someone told you about a YouTube channel and you're doing that and you're like, this stinks, you're not going to keep doing it. And the key to success is consistent behavior over long periods of time. Right. You cannot exercise for 8 weeks, check a box, and never do it again. Right. You'll be right back where you were a month after that.
It's funny that you say that, because, I'll go to the gym for months at a time. And, maybe something happens, I have to fall off for a week or two. The reality is, you probably know this better than I, that even after 48 hours, you start to lose some capacity in your muscles. After 72 hours, it's even more. So once you take a break for even 4 or 5 days, you really do see a difference. I've seen it myself. But what I was going to say about that is also that, there are silver sneakers programs. And so I had insurance through the state of Connecticut. I had my supplemental, and I was part of a silver sneakers program. And that actually paid for my gym membership. But I would get emails from them and videos from them. So even if you don't want to go out someplace, I'm not suggesting they don't join your program, but there are ways for you to get information. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to tell people how to find Vivo, because that's important, because I want people to do that. But the other thing I was going to say is there are other activities that would give you a combination of strength, agility, social connection. They actually also check several boxes. One is something like playing tennis.
Absolutely.
Which is agility, it's quick movements. You're using your whole body, your arms, your torso, right? Your back, your legs, is one. Pickleball, that's not my thing, but a lot of people playing pickleball nowadays, and that's another one. I call it like platform table tennis. It's a smaller court, and it's a different thing, but it's basically the same concept, right? It's agility, quick movements. It's social, right? It's your whole body. And another one that a lot of people don't think about is dancing. Now, I took ballroom dancing lessons for quite some time, and it really is the same thing, because it's patterns, it's movements, it's cognition. You have to remember it. It's does build muscle. You're dancing with a partner, so it's social. So I think, there are so many choices that people can have available to them. If just, let's say, lifting weights or strength training bothers them, that whole concept seems alien to them, there are certainly other choices where you're getting that without specifically going to a gym or lifting weights or, whatever that is.
That is such a great point, and really gets back to this idea of you have to find something that you can stick with, that you enjoy, that is fun, and fun's different for everybody, by the way, right? So to your point, some people may enjoy being in their basement watching a Netflix, video while they're exercising, and that's fun for them. And other people want to play tennis or pickleball because the social element of that and the fast pace, they're playing a sport, right? It's competitive. There is no right or wrong. There's just finding what works for you. One of the most common questions I get, I do presentations all the time on the benefits of, we call it the benefits of strength training for life's journey. And one of the most common questions I get is, what's the best time of day to work out, to exercise?
Oh, great question.
And the true answer is whatever the time is that you can stick with it.
Whatever's best for you, right?
Whatever works for you. And literally, like, if you're a morning person and you want to work out first thing in the morning, if you want to work out later in the morning, you want to sleep in and maybe do 10 or 11 o'clock. If you're an evening person, a night owl, and you really want to work out later in the day, they're all good. And find what works for you. And as a part of that, know that you can do this, because that's the other thing that I see more than anything is people don't think they can do this anymore. They think it's too late. I will not be able to build strength. I can't participate in an exercise program. And that's where things like Silver Sneakers, and there's a lot of competition now for that. There's a program called Renew Active and Silver and Fit. And there's lots of different variations, but they're parts of Medicare Advantage plans that do give you free access to try things. And that's part of where, the confidence comes in, is you're going to have to take a first step at some point.
Right.
And having the motivation to take that first step. We talk a lot about being ready for change. I don't know if you're a former smoker or you knew someone that was a smoker. You can talk to someone all day long about how dangerous smoking is.
Right.
Until they are ready for change, they're not going to stop smoking.
Correct.
And in some ways, this conversation around exercise is very similar. The science is so clear, and it's been clear for a very long time. we know exercise is good for us, right?
Right,
This is not rocket science. This is
right,
very,
right.
very clear. But until someone is ready to take that first step, no amount of telling them the benefits are going to move them. For some people, that first step is a friend or an adult child who says they'll do it with them. For some people, it's a diagnosis or a scary event, maybe a fall, or maybe you get diagnosed with prediabetes, right? Or osteopenia before osteoporosis, or maybe mild cognitive impairment, not Alzheimer's, but something that scares people into trying. And for other people, they just naturally get to that point in their journey where they kind of get fed up with, maybe they're in pain, maybe they are not sleeping well, maybe they are lonely, but people will get to a point where it helps them take that first step. And so that is the most important part. And there's a great quote around turn one day into day one. Stop
Oh,
saying
yeah.
one day I'm going to try this and
Say
turn that
day one.
into today's day one. Any day can be day one.
But so there's I say, and this is similar to what you're saying. When was the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. When is the second best time? Today, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Glenn said, isn't a nutritional diet targeted to age and activity also important? Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. And I will speak specifically to this question about building muscle, because the thing that's necessary, the building block of muscle, is protein.
Right.
And not just generically protein, but something called the essential amino acids.
Right.
Essential amino acids are things that the body does not make. We have to consume them through eating. And as we get older, our bodies develop something called anabolic resistance. We become less effective at converting protein into muscle, which means we actually need to eat more protein as we get older. And it's a little bit counterintuitive, because we tend to eat less as we get older. We need to be really intentional about eating protein. And what we generally talk to folks about is, it's different by how much you weigh. It's different by your gender. A really good rule of thumb is try to eat 30 grams of protein per meal.
Right.
25 to 30 grams is that threshold where our bodies can overcome that anabolic resistance and really kick off this process called muscle protein synthesis, which is the body's ability to convert protein into muscle. And so if you've ever been on a nutritional supplement like a Boost or an Ensure, take a look at the back of that bottle and you'll see 30 grams of protein in that bottle.
So don't you think that one of the reasons people consume less protein is because they're moving less? Because if you're moving more, if you're engaged in some kind of exercise, your body is naturally going to be craving more nutrition. So it's kind of counterintuitive. I was talking with someone yesterday, and she and her husband had a child a little later in life, in their 40s. And she was telling me how they have realized that they have to start to be more intentional about their nutritional choices, because they have this child who's 3 and they're both in their mid 40s, and they want to be around for him as he gets older. I want to get back to that, but Dallas is saying, aren't low carb, high protein shakes, whey isolate, 30 grams of protein really helpful?
Absolutely. That's a great example of, especially if we look at a traditional American diet, we don't naturally get a lot of protein for breakfast. We'll eat cereal, we'll eat toast,
a bagel,
a bagel, right? Exactly.
It has no nutritional value whatsoever.
That's right. Greek yogurt, cottage cheese, eggs. These are great things to eat for breakfast that are natural, great protein sources. But even with that, a protein shake is a fabulous way to get your 30 grams of protein. And there are dairy-based protein supplements. There are plant-based protein supplements.
Right.
One thing just to be really cautious of, Consumer Reports just did some analysis on a lot of plant-based protein. And I guess the farming mechanisms introduce heavy metals into them. And a lot of them had dangerous levels of lead. So absolutely, if you're on a plant-based diet, and you're using a plant-based protein supplement like protein powder, go online and look at this consumer
Do your
reports
homework,
about
right?
do your homework.
Right.
The whey-based proteins did not have that as far as I saw. And so, but it's a great way to supplement and make sure you're getting 30 grams of protein per meal.
The other thing I was going to say, so I was telling this gal, because we do a lot of things habitually, right? And we do the things that we're comfortable with, that we like. And she was telling me her husband drinks a lot of soda, et cetera, et cetera. So I had written this poem a while ago, being the CEO of your well-being, something like that. I don't even remember the title of the poem I wrote, but it was like, you're your own CEO. And basically it was analogous to a car. And your body is really your vehicle, and you're the only driver. And so I was telling her, and I've said this many times to people, would you put gasoline in your radiator in your car? The answer is no. Would you put water in your gas tank? No. Then why do you put some of these unhealthy things in your body and expect to get a different result? So if you think about how you maintain your car, right, because you want it to drive well, smoothly, get you from place to place without breaking down, how about if you think of, I think it was called Your Body, Your Car, and it was, you're the CEO of your own well-being, and you're the driver. So think of the things that you do for your car, the maintenance you do for your car. Well, what you're talking about is that's part of the maintenance that you have to do for your body, actually.
That's exactly right. And, nutrition and eating is as complex as exercise, right? There's a lot of things wrapped up in that, our upbringing, our emotions, how much sleep we got, right? And the availability of food to us. And it's really complicated, but it's a great analogy. I love that.
Yeah, I think that was the title of the poem, Your Body, Your Car, something. And the end was, you're the CEO of your own well-being. I mean, and not only is your body your business, your body is your business. It's like both of those wrapped up in one. So how would people access Vivo? How would they find out about it, get more information, access you? Because you're obviously so knowledgeable and a wealth of experience for people to, get information from. And maybe I would hope they would want to participate in this wonderful program.
Well, I thank you very much for the kind words. So you can find us definitely online. We're at teamvivo.com. Team, when you join Vivo, we think of you as part of the team. So it's teamvivo.com. And we really are very, very passionate about helping people start this journey to building strength, because building strength truly, I'm slightly biased given what I do for a living, but building strength is truly one of the single most impactful things you can do in your life. And it helps you sleep better. It helps you live longer. It helps you maintain your quality of life. It helps you build bone density, manage blood sugar, like on and on and on. And not enough people are doing this. And so we love being a resource to help people get started. We allow anybody to try it free for 2 weeks without putting a credit card down, to give you that confidence that you can do this. Because again, so many of us feel like we can't do this anymore. This is not for us. You can participate in an entire Vivo class seated. You can, if you're really fit and you're looking for a really challenging at-home exercise program, you can also make this really, really challenging for yourself, and everything in between. And we have people in their 90s and beyond, and we even have kids who are participating in multi-generational classes. We have teenagers. It'll be like a granddaughter, a mom, and a grandma all in the same class together.
Very cool.
And it's super fun. And because it's virtual, you can participate with loved ones who are all over the country or all over the world. I'm in one of my classes with my mom. I'm in a class with my wife, my mom, my in-laws, my sister, my brother-in-law, my wife's brother, my daughter. And we're all in the same class. We're in 5 different states around the country. We're in 5 different decades of life. And we're all doing the same program at the same time. It's amazing.
We missed, Carol had a comment, and we were looking at it, and then I guess we lost it there for a minute. So I'm sorry, Carol, because you were starting to talk about something about organic food or something, and I was hoping we'd get an opportunity to
Shoot,
address
sorry.
that. Right?
I was
Yeah.
just
Oh
rambling.
no, here
Oh,
it
here we
is.
go.
Here we go. So Carol says organic and plant-based is somewhat misleading. It rains, and that's lead, and there is also
Leaching,
introducing fluorocarbons too. If it's not grown in a greenhouse, don't count on healthy or purity. That is unfortunately true.
Yeah, and that's I think what I would go online and look at it, but that's what this Consumer Reports study on plant-based protein powders found. And it's a little scary. And I even had one of those protein powders in my home, and it was like, oh, going in the trash. And
Right.
so I strongly recommend, if you're doing protein supplementation and you're having trouble getting 30 grams per meal, make sure you're picking a good, safe protein powder.
Yeah. Do your homework for sure. So, I'm so grateful, Eric, that that your parents inspired you to create Vivo. It's certainly an impactful program. It creates awareness and guides not only older adults to a safer and happier life, but like you said, brings families together in a way that they probably didn't think they could all do together. And you're already putting in my mind, I have grandchildren, and my daughter, she's talking about exercising and what she could do to get herself back into shape after 3 children. And, I'm going to suggest it to her and see if we'll be able to do that together. That would be fun.
It's so much fun. I can personally attest to this. And here's the other thing that I think is really important, which we actually haven't talked about yet. It keeps me accountable, because one of the things that's the hardest part about exercise is, again, this isn't something you do for a little bit and you never do again. This is a part, it's all about behavioral change. It's about creating a system that you want to do this on an ongoing basis. And I do Vivo twice a week with my dad and twice a week with my mom. And there are plenty of days where I wake up and maybe I didn't sleep well. I stayed up too late and I didn't get enough sleep, and I don't want to do Vivo. I don't want to exercise, but I know that my mom or my dad is waiting for me. It helps keep me accountable. And here's what I can tell you, Phyllis, 100% of the time that I show up, I'm so glad I did. I've never shown up for a Vivo class and after class was like, boy, I wish I didn't do that. That never happens, right? I'm always, the brain has this reward system where it releases endorphins when we exercise. It's rewarding us for doing this.
Oh, I was going to say that earlier about endorphins, because exercise releases endorphins, which boosts mood. It makes you
feel better.
Happier, feel better.
Yes.
I know when there would be times when you said exercise at different times of the day, people say don't do it at night, but I would actually find if I did it in the evening, I would sleep better. But sometimes the day would go, I say, oh my God, I better go, because I won't be happy with myself if I let another day go by, because maybe it was 3 days. And I was always happier when I left, because I felt like you said, I was accountable to myself, and I kept a promise to myself for my own well-being. And I always left saying, gee, I'm glad I did that.
I completely agree. Finding a way to build accountability into things that are important to stay consistent with is an important part of this, because our own motivation wanes inevitably. So look for ways to create accountability. Exercising with other people does that. Scheduling appointments does that. Creating a consistent schedule of exercise helps with that, right? If you say Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 a.m., these are my days to do strength training. If you build that into your routine, it becomes habit. You don't think about it anymore.
Correct. Well, Eric, this has been fantastic. So thanks so much for not only for your parents' inspiration and for joining me, but for giving the viewing and listening audience so much wonderful information. And I hope people take advantage of it and look into Vivo, because I know it could help their well-being for sure.
Well, thanks so much, Phyllis. I really enjoyed the conversation and appreciate your time.
Likewise. So now for next week's show, which is going to be a little different than something I've done before. It features a reel by Elderly Roots that brings up a point of view about the aging journey that is definitely worthy of discussion. It presents different lifestyle choices and points of view, some of which may be controversial. It contends that staying home after the age of 70 may be the best thing that no one tells you. It may be a wise, empowering, and intentional lifestyle choice for some well-agers, as venturing out and travel may become more physically demanding and stressful. But does staying connected with the outside world through social media and technology provide the same social connections that counteract loneliness and isolation? Though it may not be for everyone, for some it may be a legitimate, rewarding, and fulfilling lifestyle choice. So remember to tune in, comment, join in, and ask questions for this exhilarating topic on Wednesday, February 18th, I guess it is, right? On the Source TV radio network. And until then, take care, stay well, and stay tuned.
Go for it, go for it. I'm just saying I'm not finished yet. Search for it, swing for it. Discover the me that lives in yes. Stand for it, stretch for it. It's my time, imagine my best. Run for it, reach for it. Uncover the me that lives in yes. I know, yes I know. There'll be miracles wherever I go. It's not work, it's play. I can make magic